Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of our Foundational Fathers podcast with the crew, of course. My name is Nick Sash, aka the Mute Bass Player, and I'm alongside.
Marcus the Philippian, and today we've got a special guest from Smalltown Poets, Kevin, joining us to talk about their incredible song, Love is an Ocean.
Yes, but before we get there, our podcast is based on, father-focused things like the fact that duct tape fixes everything and that dad jokes fix the rest of life. Faith fixes, our hearts and our minds, and we got to have some glue that holds everything else together. And we promise that we'll make some waves today, with this title being Love is an Ocean. But first, we got to have some dad jokes, Marcus, because
Yes.
what's deeper than the ocean?
I don't know.
Our stash of bad dad jokes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They're pretty deep.
Yeah. So why don't oysters donate to charity?
They're a little selfish.
Yep, they're a little selfish. And why did the crab never share?
Why did the crab never share? He's a little selfish.
No, he was a little clawful.
Clawful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
boy.
that joke was a little awful. Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything for us, Marcus?
Well, we have a new kid in the house, and he told me he didn't like dad jokes, and I was like, well, do you know when a joke becomes a dad joke? When it's apparent.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. And I think you were telling me another one about, like, since we got a musician on here today, there was some, like, your kid wanted to play some instruments.
Oh, yeah. I have that one too. So my son, he asked me to buy him a 14-piece drum set. I told him, no way. And he said I was the cheapest dad in the world, but I'm not buying it.
Oh, hey, we're also a Bible-based podcast here.
Yes.
This dad pod, is making waves. But Noah, talking about waves.
Yeah.
Why did he have to punish the chickens on the ark?
Why, Nick?
Because they were using foul language.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But as I say, before all that, if you needed a boat, I know a guy.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of fish in the water, why did fish blush?
Why?
Because they saw the ocean's bottom.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Oh, you got any more for us?
Well, I mean, I saw that. Why? Let's see. What kind of car did all the disciples drive?
I don't know.
It was a Honda. Yeah, because they all came in one accord.
Oh, gosh. Oh, and speaking of disciples.
Yes.
Why did the disciple carry a pencil?
So they can draw closer to God.
Yes, absolutely. We all love the fact that this podcast draws us, well, hopefully closer to God, but, closer to our kids.
Yes.
Or I guess maybe it's probably further away. Some of our dad jokes just kind of like,
yeah.
They create a groan, instead of a laugh.
Yeah. Now let's keep this going. Let's keep rowing along.
Yeah, I think we're up to like 5 or 6 groans already.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
maybe more.
We want to keep this going though before our listeners start to swim away. Yeah. This show is brought to you, of course, by our amazing sponsors because we got to pay the bills here. Pretty Good Wood Turning ordinary wood into extraordinary creations. Pretty Good Wood Turning, more than the foundational fantastic. It's more like God's genius.
And Sasquatch Gun Oil, rugged, reliable, and legendary. If Bigfoot trusts it, you should too.
And none of this would be made possible without the Intentionally Uncommon Initiative, the organization that backs us by calling men to live bold, live different, and disciple with a purpose. Don't settle for just average.
And then Faith Points TV, our broadcast home, where you can watch this podcast every week
twice a day
or more.
or more.
Yeah. Support them, support us, and let's keep this mission rolling.
Absolutely. You know, today we have a guest in the house from the band Smalltown Poets. I think they just formed like, last couple years. Oh, wait a minute. My mind just says it's last couple years because I'm like old now. But it was one of my favorite bands growing up, Smalltown Poets, and their guitar player from that band, Kevin, is on with us today. So let's start at the beginning, Kevin. But before we do that, we need to make sure that you get a little bit of what we like to call a roast.
A roast.
Yeah, you know, he's been on the road for a while. And speaking of being on the road, if we opened your tour bus playlist right now, I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't surprise us any if your guilty pleasure was like something like Sixpence None the Richer, or Amy Grant, or maybe even For Him. I mean, we're going way back in the day, like You Are Old, right? And
hey, there's no guilty there's no guilt in Sixpence None the Richer.
yeah, Couch Potato Band. I like to fall asleep too. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like, I bet you like, with the tour bus, I'm pretty sure you could tell us a lot of stories, like when your tires blew out, or when the bus driver forgets to even show up and take you to your first gig of the tour, or maybe you get stuck in an airport in Atlanta for like 13 hours and don't realize that your bandmates are the reason you're there. So it's welcome to the show.
Yeah.
We love having musicians like yourself on. I don't know if you can tell, but I play a little bass.
I can see that. Yes.
Yeah.
His little bass is actually in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this big.
Yeah.
So we actually have a fantasy football league amongst our hosts and our kids this year, and I decided to go online and buy a trophy for it all. And what I saw online was like a trophy this big, right? And it came like this big. So we still built a case. So this guy over here built a case that's literally for this. And I said, it's perfect. We can put a skeleton in there with a losing team on it, and enjoy.
We could do that.
Enjoy it.
I know.
For sure.
Do another one then, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
The reason I like to go back to the roots of where I remember you guys at is because I like to start things off from the beginning. And I'm pretty sure that Love is an Ocean really captures something beautiful about God's love. And so tell me, what was the very first spark of that inspiration, Kevin?
For that particular song?
Yeah, for that album?
For that album, I mean, that we recorded, we started exchanging song ideas during COVID. And I'm trying to remember, we actually had started working on it before COVID, but then obviously that changed things. And I think typically with our band, the lyrics are usually the last thing that come in place for a song. Not always, but that's usually the case, that we're working on music. We have melodies we're working with, and then, there's pretty much a formed song there, and then the lyrics come in. So I know the lyrics were written during COVID, and I think that particular song, there's a lot of nautical imagery in it. That particular song, it feels like, hey, we're kind of in this dark moment. We're trying to find our way through, trying to, like I like the opening line a lot. Is there light on the island we just sailed past? Like, we're looking for some sort of light guidance in a situation where that's pretty critical and it feels very dark and life and death could be on the line. Not that the song is that extreme, but for me, with that particular song, I have this idea for a music video in my brain that we would never have enough money to make, but it has us on like this pirate ship sailing and trying to figure out where we need to go next, and just the interactions between us and the imagery of being lost at sea, that kind of vibe. I think a lot of those feelings were infused into this song,
Yeah.
and ultimately, love takes us where we need to go,
Yeah.
and not and that being a key thing that moves people where they need to be.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. That's kind of the basis behind our whole podcast is we really want to have people experience what that love is
Yeah.
of God. Um, maybe give me like a little bit of background, like what scripture in the Bible do you really go to when you're talking about God's love and how it sparks inspiration for you?
Well, one of them, which is one of there's like multiple foundational biblical stories that are my church. I live up in Camas, Washington, which is just outside of Portland, Oregon. So my church, one of our foundational scriptural stories is the story of the woman at the well,
Mm-hmm.
in John. And to me, that is one of those that encapsulates a lot. When we read it in our uh, modern day perspective, it's easy to miss a lot of craziness that was happening in that moment culturally,
Yeah.
that people can just gloss over with our modern mindset of like our Western world.
Mm-hmm.
And in that particular story, there's just so much that Jesus displays about love, about forgiveness, about who's in, who's out, who can access the kingdom. And it's a pretty incredible story, especially when you see just all the cultural norms that Jesus breaks in that moment to show love for this particular person.
And I think right now in the world we live in, with the events that have happened around us and that are happening around us, love is so important to spread because it is so. Love can be something that is used in many different ways, where uh, the whole definition can be misunderstood, if especially if you don't know who Jesus is yet, and you experience love maybe in a broken home, or maybe just
Yeah.
from love of a relationship that may or may not be the best for you,
Yeah.
outside of the home. So having the picture of what God's love is, especially in the book of John. I love the book of John. It even starts out, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with
Yeah.
God, and the Word was God. Like that to me is the greatest picture of love. In talking about light and dark and how it separates, it doesn't understand it, and just having that vast knowledge of what true love is. Um, and I can even go back, probably in your day, Kevin. We had this thing called True Love Waits. Uh,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and it was one of those things where we traveled to Washington D.C. and you put your card on the lawn, and you expressed that you were going to wait. And then in my situation, only to find out that people in my life were not, and that I was now the individual that either had to, one, conform to my friends, or I had to stick out. And in those days, I chose to conform to my friends.
Yeah.
And that kind of boldness that I had before then just kind of faded away. And God's love became something different to me for a brief moment in life, because I was, one, hurt, two, just lost, but yet still believed that Jesus was the Son of the living God, still believed that he died and rose again for my sins. But I chose to almost like take that for granted.
Hmm.
And I feel like in our world today, that love can be, like you're talking about, pretty much an unending, overwhelming sense, of uneasiness, and that love
Hmm.
can be misunderstood. Uh, so, how do you personally connect with the picture of all that?
I think, uh, like, particularly talking about like the woman at the well scenario,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we live in a world now that's very divided,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just politically.
Right.
It's you know, before we started recording, we were talking about the good old days of the 90s, because the world was very different then.
Mm-hmm.
People did not instantly lose their minds if you had an opinion
Right.
other than what they hold to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think in the current moment, there needs to be a posture of calm, availability, ability to listen, but still speak firmly the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's almost become like an art form that's lost, because it's like, what, you think differently than me? How dare you? You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why? I don't know why we go into every situation expecting that people think just like us
Right.
all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, because it's like for example, you might see somebody or be talking to somebody that might have some sort of agreement with you on a certain issue, or just they have a certain vibe, and people automatically assume that their whole life lines up with your worldview and how you see the world. And it's just this bizarre state that we find ourselves in, um, where it's just really hard to have a conversation. But in this particular passage, I think Jesus perfectly demonstrates how you dismantle all that, because
Yeah.
you know the like I said, the situation was pretty scandalous. You know, the him being alone with a woman was a cultural no-no. um, and she was out in the middle of the day because she was kind of an outcast from the other women.
Mm-hmm.
That would be another cultural thing happening that we would just gloss over reading it today. We wouldn't see that piece of it.
Right.
But then she kind of tries to push Jesus's buttons by asking him some hot questions about, like, hey, we worship over here and this is what we're supposed to be, but you say over there. And instead of engaging in argument, he actually takes interest in her and breaks down the walls and gets to the core of the issue, where he doesn't really say that much, and she runs off and just has to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the opposite of what we see a lot of the approach. And I think even just the word love these days is like, most of the time I don't think people really mean love when they use it.
Yeah.
As far as like, we need to love people, and oftentimes that means we need to let people wallow in their own self-destruction,
Right.
because telling them otherwise would mean that there is truth and that they are wrong, and that you're right, they're wrong, and that's wrong. You know, it's like, it's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when we come into a conversation with anybody and like we're already in defensive mode, it's gonna be hard to have a conversation with them, right? Or to
Yeah.
be, because like no matter what you have to say, they're gonna be attacking. They're in that defense mode, like I said.
Yeah.
Uh, but having that act, like you said, of lost art of that gentleness, that kindness, and that really does come from love, and uh, the Ephesians 3:18 comes to mind, and you know, how wide and how long and how high and how deep is your love of Christ. And that shows, right? That's the fruit of the Spirit, like how we interact with those people. And you know, we're not always going to get it right because we are human, but just the fact that like we have to be out there and be willing to go out and try
Yeah.
Yeah.
and seek them where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the boldness is still there in a lot, like back in the 90s. We did this thing, like where we handed out tracts. We would go door to door, and those people that I would be like, oh, you're in a gang. No, we're just here to talk about Jesus and what he can do in your life. And today that would be something that just would totally put everybody off. And like the witness has changed over the last 30 years, but the message is still the same. I think, like with the invention of social media, YouTube, and all the different apps out there that people can come in contact with, those door-to-door conversations can happen worldwide, and But at the same time, those door-to-door interactions that we had back in the 80s and 90s were a lot more personal, because you could sit down with them face to face, have coffee, or open up your own Bible, and not a phone app, and like be able to like really go, this is the word of God, this is what this says, this was written over 1500 years by so many different authors, and this is what the main statement of God's plan is for your life. And because people come in, talk to me all the time, like, how do you know what God's purpose is for you? How do you find that? And it's crazy to me. Like when I was younger, I was in that same mindset, but as I've gotten older, um I don't know if I've gotten grayer yet, thank God, but
He has.
but like you find that it is actually really simple. God's purpose and plan for each and every one of us is to know him better, and to make sure those people around us experience who God is through the way we live out our life. And there's really nothing more to it, right?
Nope, it's pretty simple, but also very complex at the same
Yes, I
time.
would agree. Yes. That black and white that we used to really hold true to is
Yeah.
very, very gray right now.
Yes.
And I was actually just scrolling last night, just trying to find some answers for my own life, what I'm going through. Uh, I have two kids that just recently got married within a year and a half of each other. I have a kid that's a senior. So my empty nest syndrome is like chomping at the bit. Like, what am I going to do with my life now that it's my role for the last 25 years is changing? I'm no
Hmm.
longer going to be that in-house over their, everyday life type of father. Now I'm the wise dad that they've never thought I would be. Uh, that they always
I
said,
didn't
"Hey,
think you'd be
Dad."
either.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They were always like, "Hey, Dad, we don't need your opinion." And now, like, my daughter lives in Texas, and she's like calling me at 7:30 in the morning. "Hey, Dad, I don't know what to do here, or what's your opinion?" And I'm like, "You have to wait 21 years for that kind of conversation." Um, and so, learning how to love people that way has been a change in my life that I haven't experienced, even when I was playing on the road and had come in contact with thousands of different people. Uh, you're the way that you explain what black and white is a lot different when you are old and gray.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
had a question for you is like, so over the process or over the years, your process has changed. Like, has it gotten any easier, harder, or different? Like when you come to writing songs or just performing?
Well, it's definitely changed. It's interesting because we just, like, I've got right here on my phone, I was just sent the masters for our next album, so it'll be out next month in October.
Sweet.
Um, but and I mentioned that because I was reflecting back on that, like the creative process, while the tools and the way it happens has changed a lot over the years, but at its core, it's still very much the same. And how that works for us is, um, like all of us will be working on music. We'll like I have just folders and folders of song ideas. But for me, as a guitar player, and I'm not a singer songwriter, I'm not somebody who writes complete songs and goes out and could perform himself. It's like for me, a song idea is typically I'll have like a cool musical hook, a verse and chorus idea, and then I'll hand it off to someone like Danny or who's our keyboard player, and he's one of the lyricists. So Michael, our lead singer, and Danny are the main lyricists in the band. And then Danny might work on it a little bit, and then we'll bring it together as a band, and we'll play it and jam on it. That's a whole bunch of our songwriting process right there. Where, or in that same scenario, it could have been like Miguel brings an idea, hands it to Michael, they work on it, or the other thing that happens is someone will bring an idea to us as a band if we're together, and we start jamming on it, and we corporately together start adding things and arranging. Ultimately, it always goes through that band together, playing, working on, arranging, refining before we actually record it. I think we did an EP back in 2012 where that was the only time where we were never at any point in the recording process in the same room together. But usually that's how it happens. And then, we're spread out now around the country. So we'll meet up and record, and all the other guys are still in the South. We still consider Atlanta the home base for the band, but I'm obviously not in Atlanta anymore. So a lot of this now starts over the internet. So, we all have recording gear. I'll track ideas, and, there's a lot of ideas in that idea folder I mentioned that aren't Smalltown Poet ideas. There's, I've got a separate musical persona called Red Machine that I've started releasing music under that's more electronic, mostly instrumental. It's where I experiment. I work in the music industry, so it's a place where I do a lot of experimenting around releasing music and stuff that's separate from Smalltown Poets, because I don't want to mess Smalltown Poets up with something that I might try.
Okay.
So it's kind of my place where I can experiment and do some things outside of the band that then informs a lot of my work in the music industry. But anyway, so now it'll be like I'll send some ideas over, or when we know we're in the process of like, hey, let's start working on another record, we'll create a folder online. Everyone will dump their ideas in there. We'll all go through and listen to them and kind of mark the ones that jump out at us to start working on, and away we go. Which really, that process hasn't changed from the beginning much, other than the usage of like the internet and, home recording tools that are more readily available. But typically it still feels like the same process we've always done. The thing I love about our band is that we're there's no individual that's like the talent. It's very much all of us together make what we do unique and interesting, in my opinion. It's not like any of us have had, like if Smalltown Poets stopped, someone else would start making music that fills the void the band left. That wouldn't be the case. Like all of us make, Danny's got several music projects. One's called 88 Planets. It's instrumental piano stuff. He and I actually just released a collaborative track with our musical alter egos that came out a couple weeks ago. It's instrumental. That was a fun track to work on with him. But so it's not like anyone, like if the band broke up, Michael would basically have a new project that sounds just like Smalltown Poets, because it was just him anyway. That's not how it works for us.
Yeah.
Very collaborative.
That's great. So I know that you guys tour or toured a lot, and sometimes people can misunderstand what touring is really like. They like to see that,
Absolutely.
they love to see that. Oh, it must be a life full of glamorous things, like all these fun things that you get to do. And trust me, I traveled in a Chevy G20 van back in the 90s. That is not a glamorous thing. It had shag carpet in there so we could sleep. Can you share a road story that sums up life as a band on the road, that you had maybe some times where you could cry and maybe some times that you laugh? Because I'm sure you have plenty of those.
Oh, there's so many. Yeah, and you are correct. When people think going on the road, they think, oh, it's just a party, it's lots of fun. It's your job, and it's a very unique type of job. The thing that surprised me when I first started touring full time, we were, and this was our biggest. We had been touring, but when we got on our first big tour, we were the opening band for the Jeff More in the Distance tour, and Out of Eden was the middle act, and we were the opener. And the funny thing to watch, because you're with a bunch of people, it's you're all in your own individual vehicles getting to the next venue on your own, but then you all show up again at the new place and everybody's there. So you kind of have your own little family dynamics, but then together you kind of create this bond over a tour. But what was interesting was to see that there's a lot of people that despise being on the road because you're constantly in a new situation every day with new people, with new expectations, or uh, which could be good or bad, of what it is you do, why you're there, and uh, just being in different places every day. For me, I absolutely love it. I love traveling. It's to me, it's just a daily adventure. But for some folks, they really start to lose their mind, and they hate it and they despise it and they just want to go back. At that time, I was living in Nashville. They just want to go back to Nashville and play on records or be in the same place every day, sleep in their own bed, because it is pretty intense and it is a lifestyle that's not typical. And you um, you're in tight spaces with the same people every day, like even on a full-size touring bus. Like if you were at a show and your friends in the band and they took you on the bus, you might go, oh, this thing's awesome, look at this thing. It's like, yeah, that wears off real fast because we're literally living on top of each other. And then you're like, you have people's different preferences. Like I like to keep, like, if you look at my vehicles, they're spotless on the inside. It's not a garbage can where I collect everything. And other people, that might be their vibe. And you're like, have to just, figure all that out when you're living in tight quarters with other people, of like how they truly live. And it can be challenging. And then the show's just a small part of your day.
Right.
And so you have to get in the mindset that it is a job and you're dealing with a whole new group of people every night. And that is an emotional experience that I think a lot of people aren't prepared for.
Right.
And the other thing that's weird that I've experienced is the artist. When you are out in the audience, you see all the production, you hear the sound the way it's supposed to be. You're seeing the whole package. When you're on stage playing, that's not what you experience. You're not seeing, I mean, you see the audience and you're having fun playing music with your friends, but it's a whole different thing. Like that imaginary, like, I don't know, dream that people of what it must be like to be an artist is created in their mind based on what they see, but not what you truly experience when you're in that world.
Right.
So I have a question for you, and correct me if this is wrong, but would you say that doing and performing is like your calling that God has placed on you?
Yeah, I definitely love writing music and performing. In fact, I wish I was performing more. I play every week at my church, but the idea of, especially now that my kids are a little bit older, because it's challenging when they're younger. I was in another band here in the Portland area that was playing in the local scene pretty regularly when my kids were like babies, and that's challenging. That band probably could have gone a lot further, but just being on the road at that point in stage of life would have just been really, really challenging. But for me, I love playing live music. I love the feeling of using my gifts in that way. That's why I love playing at church every week. To me, it's just a way to contribute to our community and use my talents in that way. And it's pretty humbling when you're a musician and you do something that seems to resonate and connect with people, and takes them to a place where that nothing else can. It's yeah, like I said, it's pretty humbling. And so I'm always looking for opportunities to perform more. Now I've been thinking in the last handful of months that I got to get back playing more. Smalltown Poets, we play a handful of shows every year, but because of life and everything, it's really hard to just, you can't really grind it out, and it's so expensive
Yeah.
these days. That's another challenge
Yeah.
that, you even see the major artists pulling back on how much they tour. In fact, it's kind of a big storyline in the music industry right now that,
Yeah.
it's so expensive to tour that you're seeing these artists that typically could do a 100-city tour doing 40, doing 30,
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question for that was like leading into your tour bus, right? You said like, oh, it's kind of at first it's you're getting used to it, like, oh, it's so glamorous, but then that comfort soon wears off, and I think like God calls us into that discomfort area,
Yeah.
to use our gifts in a way that we may not feel comfortable with, but uh, I guess that the next thing would be how has being a husband and a father kind of shaped the way that you write your music, and does your family life influence the songs you create?
Oh, absolutely. I think as an artist, you're always sensitive to the things that are going on around you, and that might be very, a direct thought like this happened in the life of my family or is going on and this makes me think this, or it's just you're in a situation that you're feeling various vibes and things, and that just comes out in your music. In fact, this doesn't have to do with family, but I grew up in San Diego, and the fascinating thing, you know, I'm now in the Northwest, and I lived in Nashville for a while. That's where I met the guys, and then lived in Atlanta when we were doing it full time because that's where the band was based. And my wife is from the Northwest, so we ended up back up here. But when I moved up here, it's very dark and moody, like
Mm-hmm.
7 months
Yeah.
out of the year.
For sure.
And it was fascinating to watch that was the first time where I really started writing tons of music. And that's when I started getting into some local bands here as well, while Smalltown Poets was still going on. And um and it was interesting to see just how the change of location changed my creative output completely. And it's funny because when I go visit San Diego, like I could never write the music that I write living in San Diego. It's too sunny, it's too happy. Like who wants to
Yeah.
write some of the stuff that is more moody that I've written over the years, that it's just different. So yeah, even any place, location, and the people that you're with are gonna change your creative output. And so yeah, I think as far as my, I've got two daughters, one's 18 and one's 15. Um, for me, the whole thing has changed. Like uh, when I started in music, it was about I wanted a career. I wanted to play. I wanted to make my livelihood by playing music. I wanted to pursue things in the creative realm. And also, I just, I studied guitar and music business in college. And so I wanted to be a part of it. But then as you change and grow, and especially having kids, I shifted more of like part of the joy of continuing to see small town poets create music that I think keeps we're still on a growth path. We're still getting better. We're still doing things that we haven't done before. Where a lot of times bands our age at this point, they're kind of either just doing it to relive the glory days. For us, that's not the case. Um, we're still feel like, to me, I still feel like some of the best songs are still haven't been written yet that we're going to write. And so when interacting with my daughters, what I want them to see is uh, how this musical catalog has left a legacy that they can enjoy, that people can enjoy long past my life. And for for uh for them, I enjoy them seeing like this is hard work. Like he spends hours and hours doing this, but the result is something that is just unexpected. Like you see how hard they work to honing their talents and gifts, and then and it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of reasons to give up as an artist because everyone tells you like, oh, you'll never make money, which is pretty true these days.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. Ultimately, it's about, no, we've been given a gift, and there's something special that happens when the five of us are together writing music.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to take that for granted. We're going to keep doing it as long as we can. And all of us have had um, like most of us, I think maybe everyone except Miguel, they're no, I don't think Michael's father did either, but three of us, our dads were like the music director in Southern Baptist churches, piano organ type situation.
Yeah.
And so we saw the usage and the joy of music beyond just a marketplace growing up, and it was a part of our church experience. Whether it was the style of music we liked didn't matter. It was a critical part of worship, as a critical part of the human experience. And
Mhm.
so for me, I'm more interested in my daughters seeing these gifts and talents as something that are gifts and should be used. Whether it makes you money or not is beside the point.
Right.
That's not why they were given to you in the
Right.
first place.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and
'Cause
and yeah,
yeah, you don't take those gifts with you when you leave this earth, right? Like,
yeah,
obviously the DNA and stuff in the breath of God that He put into us will be different when we leave this earth. But like, I'm kind of similar with you. Like my kids, uh, I didn't know if they would catch the bug that I had, and so I was trying to figure out like, okay, what do I do with this? So I actually put the guitar down for 10 years and was focusing on raising my kids, and then I realized I'm not using my talent that God gave me because I'm shelving it for other reasons, and
yeah,
when I could be showing them, hey, this is how I worship God. This is what I do to give glory to God. And then I picked it back up, and now my daughter's a music ed major. She plays every instrument known to man, and uh, I'm pretty sure she'll be better at me in 30 or 40 years. But yeah. But and my son plays drums, and I would have never guessed. Like I got two kids out of that. Out the other one's just athletically gifted, so which is not what I am. But like God showed up and like said, "Hey, you've got this gift. Your kids are going to see that there is a reason behind it. It's a way to glorify His name in heaven and on earth. So use it. And that's why I've been playing bass at church when we didn't have a bass player the last 7 years. So
yeah.
we finally got some bass players in the works, and hey, I can play some 6-stringed instruments now. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. But you know I say all that because tour bus time. Like we had our fun on the tour bus, especially when they would break down, blow a tire, or get pulled over by the cops because your back windows are mirrored out and they're wondering what's inside. Um, like all those different types of scenarios happen to me.
Yeah.
So I got a game, so we're gonna just take a little bit of break. We're gonna do this little game. It's called the Tour Bus Truth. All right.
Okay.
So it's time for a little game where we call this the Tour Bus Truth. We'll throw out some classic on the road scenarios, and you just tell us how you'd handle it. Or
Okay.
maybe even you can tell us what actually happened if your bandmates won't kill you. Uh, Scenario one: the van AC goes out in the middle of July.
Oh, I've lived that many times. Probably the worst scenario where that happened. Well, there's two stories I'll tell you, but the worst scenario where that happened is we were in Dallas, Texas, in the middle of summer,
Oh,
and I'm not exaggerating. The thermometer said 110 outside,
yeah.
and our generator on the bus went out. And if you're not familiar with how buses work, uh, for those listening, you have a vehicle that has AC for the driver, like you're used to in your car, but the rest of the bus is cooled off by the generator and the overhead air conditioners. And we were playing it was like one of those youth conferences or like Christian bookseller association, something big conference. So we were in the playing during the day, and the bus had been sitting in the sun, turned off in 100-degree temperature in Dallas. And after we were done playing, it was just like we were just melting. I mean, that stuff happens constantly. You mentioned earlier, and I don't think I ever got to the point like you're talking about on the road. That's one thing people don't probably aren't used to, the fact that if you tour, even if you have new vehicles, you're breaking down constantly.
Yes.
The vehicles weren't intended to be put through the abuse that being on tour uh, puts them through. And so you're always in situations of facing that moment of frustration of like being broken down on the side of the road. Now you're going to be late. Now your whole day is sound check's going to be rushed. You may not get it. The show still has to go off. And, we've had every scenario pretty much imaginable happen with breakdowns. I remember waking up one morning to the sound of a saw underneath the bus because our road manager was driving at the time and hit a patch of ice and ran over a decorative tree in like the front of the Target parking lot, and the bus was stuck. And that all happened, and I didn't even wake up. That's what's fascinating to me. I woke up because I tended to wake up when the bus stopped moving, because it's the best sleep you'll ever have. You're just being rocked slowly in vibration, and it's just so. And then it stops. You're like, what happened? And then I hear, I'm under the bus, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go back to sleep. They'll wake me up if I need to help in some way, but I'm just not gonna ask any questions. But stuff like that happens constantly, and it's one of those things where that's the other kind of thing that people don't expect when they're getting into like touring. That's what your daily life is typically like.
So this is scenario number 2, right? A bandmate snores so loud it rattles the bunk. What do you do? What do you do? Or is it you?
I was gonna just say, I think
no, it's not me, and it's somebody else in the band who, when I first joined on, they made me room with him because he snored, and at first it didn't bother me, but then he finally broke me down. and at that point, you stick someone else with him. We had So if we had enough room, sometimes we give him a room by himself. But I know one time our driver was staying with him, and he was so frustrated because he's supposed to be sleeping because he's got to drive us. He's got to be awake.
He's gonna be well rested. Yeah.
And he got so angry, he just took the pillow and stood up and yelled, "Would you shut up?" And just like pounded him with the pillow. Because he was just so frustrated because he couldn't sleep. And,
oh, man.
I was that guy, unfortunately.
You're that guy.
I was the guy who wake up. We had like a state park or whatever. We'd get a tent because there was no room in the hotels, so we decided to go to get a tent. I'd wake up in the tent by myself, and they're all in the van because they're like, dude, you're too loud.
Yep.
So
that's what's called intense.
Yeah, that's for sure. So scenario number 3, food wars at a highway exit. Barbecue versus sushi or versus salad.
Wow. Well, when we were touring all the time, it definitely would have been barbecue.
Yeah.
Now it'd probably be the salad option. I don't know that I would trust sushi off a highway exit ramp.
Especially in Dallas.
Yeah. You might run into some trouble. You got to be on the bus for a while, so you can't be stopping every 5 minutes for somebody.
And speaking of food, I ask all my podcast guests this. All right. So you're pulling over and you see a pizza joint and you're like, hey, let's go have some pizza. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely not.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right.
We have some strong. I don't know. 3 of the guys, I don't know, honestly, off the top of my head, their position on it. But I know 2 of us have very strong stance on pineapple on pizza.
Thank you. You are the first guest that we've had on.
You are the first
that has said no, right? And now I don't feel so alone.
It doesn't belong. It's not supposed to be there. In fact,
you can't even call it Hawaiian pizza.
In fact, Danny, he's the one in Smalltown Poets that is in strong agreement with me. We always joke because there's always this one person that insists that we get a ham and pineapple pizza. And I'm like, but you like other stuff, right? Like, yes, but we must have this. I'm like, but you're not going to eat it. Oh, yes, I am. And then the pizzas come and they get one of that. And then they start eating all the other pizza. And then what's left over? Always the ham and pineapple.
Yeah.
It makes the point every time. Every time.
So my thing with that is this. It's a little segue. So pineapple is not from Hawaii, so you can't call it a Hawaiian pizza. Pineapple's
true.
not from Hawaii. I think it's from like Spain or something, and it was brought over there.
It just grows well there.
So yeah. So it's not a Hawaiian pizza. So
there's so many problems. You could start a
I
whole other
guess.
podcast.
I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I guess.
we'll have a whole other spinoff on this.
Man. All right.
All
Well, I lost one battle today.
All right. So you're number 4 or 5. Which one are you?
So I'm on number 4.
Okay.
So this is always something that we always struggled with when I was on the road. Fan selfie mid bite at a truck stop.
The struggle was.
Oh.
The really funny part is they think you're somebody else.
Yeah.
Like,
oh. I've had that experience before where people knew we were a band because, we pull up in a bus and we all get out together and, definitely don't look like we're from around there. And I remember one time where somebody came up to us and took a picture and they left. I'm like, I don't think they know I think they thought we were somebody else, but we'll just play along.
Man,
yeah. They were like, are you the guy from NSYNC? And I'm like, no, not even close. Do we look like NSYNC?
Yeah.
More like what's that? The band with the mbop. We were probably closer to that.
Hanson.
You're closer to Hanson.
Yeah, than the NSYNC. But all right. Well, okay. Speaking of tour, again, gear trouble. And we love duct tape around here.
Yes.
So when it comes to gear trouble, would you rather duct tape it or just do the acoustic set?
Oh, I'd rather duct tape it.
Awesome.
And that's one thing where I feel like artists today have it easy because the quality of gear, especially cables, is in a whole different stratosphere compared to what we were using back then. And there was one particular show that we played where it couldn't have been more humiliating because of a bad cable. And it was a bad cable, and the crew guy had stepped on one of the other cables and slightly unplugged it from my pedal board. So we go out. It's this big youth event that was at Carowinds or one of the what's the King's Dominion? It was King's Dominion.
Ohio. Yep.
And no, the King's Islands in Ohio. King's Dominions is
right.
And it was a big outdoor amphitheater. And it was a gig that we had played the year before. It was like all these youth groups come to, it's a day at the park and they have music playing all day at the amphitheater. So there's several thousand people out there in this blazing hot sun. And this was the second year we did it. And the first year, the guy the promoter got all the lights and everything that kind of framed the stage, but it was in the daytime and they barely used them. So to save money, he didn't get that. So we kind of looked silly on this gigantic stage with literally no production except our drum kit, amp. And we walk out to play and the drummer counts off and I'm supposed to start and nothing's coming out. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And we're looking around and then Michael walks over to my pedal board and sees that cable's unplugged. So he pushes in. He's like, oh, okay, we're good to go. Count us off again, nothing. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, one of my other cables had a short in it. And I'm like, at this point, I'm just like down on my pedal board trying to figure things out. And all of a sudden, just because I was supposed to start the song, my guitar is still cranked super loud in the house. And all you hear is, and I'm like pounding on my pedal board. And you just hear, and finally, I got the cable enough to like stick to play the show, but it was just the whole thing just felt like humiliation. It was like paid humiliation. Yeah. So it was the crowd was like melting down in the sun. So it's not like there was a lot of energy coming from them. There was a lot of people, but it was just everything was like, is this what my life has become?
Oh, okay. So the last scenario I have for you. All right.
Yes.
Tour van playlist. Who's in charge?
Oh, that's a good question. It's funny because usually it'll be somebody will want to put on a record to listen. Like we'll be talking about something and might say, "I haven't heard that record in a while. Let's put it on." Or someone might have something new they want us to hear. Or yeah, it could be all over the place. Usually, it's in that scenario. It's been very album centric. Like we'll start some discussion about music that gets us to a certain point. We're like, yeah, let's put that record on, or I've been digging this album or this artist, and that's typically what happens. Uh, so yeah, it could be all across the board for style, genre, whatever.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's the truth about life on the road. Less glamour, more gas stations, and a whole lot of brotherhood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it would have been a little different for us if we had. We were popular enough to keep the machine going. uh Nobody in our band got rich off of being an artist. So if you make it to that next level, there's some comforts that come along, but it's still the same thing. Like we played all the major festivals every summer, and you'd be there in the same situation with the major headliners, and their life didn't look much different, even though they had more means. It's like the movie Groundhog Day. You live the same day
Yeah.
over and over again, and you it's not how people are used to living.
Yeah.
For like what would be considered a normal life, where you go to the same job every day, you're around the same people, you don't travel much, you don't experience a lot of the stresses of that, you're not changing time zones all the time, you're not
Yeah.
doing drives through the night, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It really is a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. Oh, and I found that out on the road too. Like, we did a couple of those big uh tour type scenarios, or like festival type of
Yeah.
shows, and you would be on a different stage, not the main one or whatever. And there was this one band that uh they the lead guitar player only had brought his one and only guitar, and it broke, and it was like, what the heck am I going to do? And I'm like,
Yep.
well, I got a couple in the back, let's go see what you like. He was a Les Paul player. I didn't have any Les Pauls in the back,
Oh,
so
that's rough.
yeah, I know. So I only have one Les Paul on the wall here because it's my daughter's, and I told her she's not taking it to Texas. But like so he was like, okay, well, sure, I'll take a look and see what you got. And he was just so thankful. And I said, you know what? Just consider it your backup guitar. When you get yours fixed, you can play it, but it's yours. I got a few. And so like it was always something for me when I would hit a city. Obviously, that's where a lot
Yeah.
of these guitars came from. I was bored, didn't have anything else to do, and keep myself out of trouble and keep myself following God. It's in the Bible. I had a couple Bibles stolen on the road too. Like, it was crazy. I'm like,
Wow.
Yeah.
okay, you can have my Bible. I mean, I hope to read
Yeah.
it, but like I would go to a music store, and that was a way that I could share God. I would sit down, play some guitar, and then walk away with a couple because I wanted to make sure that I was also blessing them.
You paid for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I paid for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it was a steal. I mean, if it was a steal, then I walked away with that too.
Yeah.
But I would always ask the guy, like I would look for, because they paid for pretty much everything on the road. I just had this little tiny salary. I was single at the time, and so I was like, okay, I'll buy an expensive guitar and then I'll buy a cheap one. That way, if I ever run into that situation again, I can give the cheap one away,
Yeah.
and not feel like I'm. But then I ran into this guy not too long ago because I have 54 guitars on the wall. Take one down, pass it around, kind of thing. But I ran into this guy, and we were talking about guitars, and he had 600.
Wow.
And I was like,
That's a
oh,
lot.
yeah. And then he said, but they're anywhere from $200 worth to like upwards about 600 to 700. And I'm like, oh, most of the stuff on my wall is like 4 or 5 times that amount. And I felt like, ooh, look, like that look at me
Yeah.
moment. And then he said, yeah, but I give them all out at children's hospitals.
Oh.
I went, oh. So he's got 600 gifts and I have 54 treasures. And I felt like this big after that conversation. So I did become more intentionally with like, what do I have that's really not mine? God gave it to me. God allowed me to have these. So I do, like, we've got a college in town. I will be more than glad to not just lend, but give whenever I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a God moment, because every time I feel like I'm giving, I'm getting. And so God just keeps moving, and I'm like, maybe I will have 600 guitars in the future.
Maybe.
Who knows? But
Who
my
knows?
wife will probably not be here anymore
Yeah.
because she'll leave me. But if I have 600 guitars in the house, yeah, there's no more.
Keep them
There's
in
no
the
more
garage.
wife. Yeah, but they say life is happy wife, happy life. So I'll
Yeah.
stick to under 78.
House, happy
Yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah. So today's takeaway is that this ocean that we live in, that we float on, is unpredictable and sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but it's always a powerful one. And God's love is just like that too.
And unlike the ocean, his love has no end. You'll never hit the bottom, and you'll never reach the shore where it stops.
And so, Kevin, as we close, what final thought would you want to leave our listeners with about a song or just about God's love in general?
Well, you talked about the song "Love Is an Ocean" or "Love Is the Ocean." I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's the title. I got to know the names of my own songs. I think that I mean, what I love about making music and putting songs out there is it meets people where they are. And even Michael, who wrote the majority of these lyrics, he doesn't like telling people what the song means. Even in the band, our drummer will be like, "What's the song mean?" And he'll say, "Well, this was what I was kind of thinking about when I wrote it," but he won't say, "This is what the song means," because he likes for people to, as the artist, people are going to bring their perspectives and their experience and their lives to the material as well, that might inform an even bigger takeaway or something better. But the one of the things that, like, with this particular song really spoke to me, because like I said, we wrote it during COVID, and there was a lot of darkness going on in the world, and there's still a lot of that going on. But the idea that there's light, and the light chases away the darkness, and that sometimes how we get there we don't fully understand. And that's why I like the imagery in this song. It's like the 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 character in the song is clearly on a boat. And that's why I said I have this vision of this idea of like an amazing music video for this, where we're kind of on this ship going through, where maybe along the coast where there's islands, you can see a lighthouse, and we're trying to figure out which way to go, and the sea gets rocky, but we keep moving towards the light, uh, to find our way. And that's, I think, a lot of times what life feels like. And it can feel like, I know we're supposed to love, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of love around. And I tried loving people, and it didn't work out so well. But so it can be this frustrating thing that isn't just so simple and clean and easy. Love is messy. And I think that's partly where the church thrives, and also can get itself in trouble when it's like, trying to engage in love, but not knowing how to do it in a way that actually represents Christ's love, as opposed to maybe the world's version of love. Um, but I like, in that particular song where it talks about it, love moves us to where we're going. And I think, I really like the chorus of the song, because it's in motion. It's not something that, oh, I checked it off the box. It's like we're constantly in motion, moving towards where we need to be, and love is the thing that gets us there.
Yeah. Amen to that. So I just want to say, if you're listening right now and you've been standing on the shore of God's love, dipping your toes in the water, but never diving in, this is your moment.
God's love isn't shallow. It's vast, it's deep, and it's unending. Through Jesus Christ, your love can be made available in a much deeper sense to you right now.
All you have to do is call on him, admit your need, believe he died and rose again, and commit to following him.
Yeah, and you'll find his love deeper than your sin, stronger than your fears, and wider than any storm in your life. And if that is something right now that you are struggling with and you want to know who this God is, well, let's first of all introduce you to what it's like to walk in freedom. Let's introduce you to what it's like to walk as a child of God. And I want to give you that opportunity right now. We never do a podcast without giving you a chance to pray this prayer and accept Jesus into your life. So I want to do that right now. So bow your heads with me and repeat this. Father God, I am so grateful that you know my story and that you love me even though I am a sinner. I pray right now that you would come into my life, that you would clean every corner of it, and that you would allow me to be full of the Spirit and to use his power in my life to, to walk boldly, to walk strongly, and to walk with purpose as I live out my life for you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And if you prayed that prayer, reach out to us at
The Intentionally Uncommon Initiative.
You can find that on Facebook, on Instagram, at Uncommon Dads, or you can also find us on our actual website, it's actually intentionally uncommon initiative.com. We have a couple of missions that we would like to shout out. First, it's the Million Bibles Initiative. The electronic age is great, but the word of God in hand is so vital. And there are still people out there who haven't had that chance to do so. And we are trying our best to make sure that we can get the word of God to all corners of the world, to reach the unreachable, and make sure God's love touches those who think they are untouchable.
Yes. And Kevin, thank you for joining us and reminding us that through love is an ocean, or the love is an ocean. God's love is bigger than we can imagine.
And catch the Smalltown Poets new album out next month, it looks like. And we will definitely be posting links to that when that actually happens. So feel free to like, comment, subscribe below, as well as check out a lot of our other material. We have devotionals as well as a brand new series coming out, actually launches tomorrow, called Everyday Disciple. We are dads, but this is geared towards more people who haven't reached the dad pod moment yet.
Yeah.
And they want to still know who God is and what's going on inside there. So feel free to look into that. And then I've also just released and releasing a book called Unmuted. It has a lot to do with the musician from the back, the rhythm section, and how my life was a lot of similarity there. So feel free to check that out. It's available, or will be available, wherever you can buy literature. It's also available in ebook form right now. So feel free to check that out. And again, support our mission. There is sponsorships available as well as membership partners. And we will put those links as well in the bottom in the comments. And again, thank you, Kevin, for coming on and just really showing what God's love is all about to our listeners and having a little fun. So,
absolutely,
we are going to take our show more on the road this year, because I think that's kind of what a lot of people are doing. And so maybe, just maybe, you might see us in person one of these times. Oh, and let's not forget, Sasquatch Gun Oil is right around your corner, Washington. Yep. They're one of our
Klamath
sponsors.
Falls.
So yeah, if you want to check this out there, SasquatchGunOil.org, use code
FFP 316.
Picking it up, and that supports our mission. All right, without further ado, you've been listening to the Foundational Fathers podcast. found on YouTube, Spotify, and now Faith Points TV. I'm Nick, the mute bass player.
And I'm Marcus, the Philippian.
And with our guest, Kevin from the Smalltown Poets. Of course, they are still living the big time.
Yeah.
We will see you next week.